Hey everybody, John here, obviously. And I have watched an interview with the Attorney General of Canada, a guy named David Lametti, being interviewed by Evan Solomon from CTV News. Now, that's what I want to talk about. I'm going to talk briefly about CTV News and then about my thoughts of this interview. CTV News is one of the main media news outlets in Canada. And I know that this week, or the past week, they peeled off all of the corporate branding from their cars and trucks and vans and stuff driving around in the various cities that they're operating in, because the public now knows, almost everybody in the public now realizes that CTV, along with the CBC and almost every other major news outlet, routinely and habitually lie to the public, not about small things, but about matters of great importance to the future of Canada, to the economy, to your freedoms, to your basic civil rights, to your future, your ability to earn a living or remain non-homeless, and so on. The news organizations in Canada are all now, I would say, ideologically captured, or maybe just purchased off, maybe bought off and corrupt, and walking in lockstep with the federal government, which is not the way a free country is supposed to work. The news media is supposed to provide an oppositional view to the government to keep everybody honest, and that is not at all what's happened. They are now completely in lockstep, and that's very, very bad, and the public have become aware of this, and because of the persistent lying about matters of significant import, I would say there is probably a growing level of anger and resentment towards these wholly corrupt media organizations, which is why CTV News, realizing their employees are now, rather than the pillars of the community, are pariahs, and they've peeled off the stickers from all their vehicles. That's an interesting fact. But anyway, CTV News did an interview with David Lametti, the Attorney General of Canada, and also Justice Minister, 3 days ago on the 16th. A guy named Evan Solomon did the interview, and I was going to go through the entire text of the interview because I transcribed it all, but it's overwhelming. I can't actually sit through the whole thing and talk to you about every part of it. I'm only going to talk to a couple parts of this interview. This is the first part of the transcript that I've got on a screen to my right here. He's talking, of course, about the government's new powers to instruct banks to seize the funds and close the accounts of anybody even suspected of providing support to the truckers' protest that is in Ottawa and in many other cities across Canada. In the clip I'll be talking about, the interviewer, Evan Solomon, begins by asking the Attorney General, Mr. Lametti, the government has authorized financial institutions to have the power to freeze accounts suspected of being involved in the illegal blockade. And my interjection is this: what's illegal about it? Now, certainly you might charge people with mischief, and I think that's sort of the price you're willing to pay to engage in civil disobedience. But I find it particularly bizarre that of all people, Justin Trudeau is going to keep hammering on the word illegal to describe something that he doesn't like, when this guy is famously basically the Prime Minister with nothing but a long string of ethics violations, most of which would be indictable offenses. And for the American listeners, that's the same as a felony in Canada, because he's taken bribes, he's interfered in the prosecution of corporate criminals who were his buddies, he's taken bribes from the We Foundation, he's misallocated public funds, he's groped reporters, criminal behavior that he's completely unrepentant of and that he just seems to slide off him like Teflon. So I find it particularly absurd and clownish that he should continue to say the word illegal and call it a blockade when he's talking about a protest against the illegal overreach of his own government, the abrogation of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which supposedly is the highest law in the land, is now a piece of toilet paper for Justin to wipe his butt on. But the point that I'm going to stress on here is Lametti is justifying the closure of bank accounts for people who might have donated to the trucker fund. And even Solomon continues to ask him, what is the recourse for people who are unlawfully have their bank accounts stolen or wrongfully? He actually says illegally at one point, and then he corrects himself. It's a little Freudian slip. Like, he knows it's illegal. What the Justice Minister says, what the Attorney General says, is that they are relying on the fairness. What did he say? Let me just quickly scan down here. The reasonableness of the individual investigators. So they have suspended due process. They don't have to have warrants. They don't have to go through a court or discovery process. It's just that if they don't like something, they just point at it and go, that's illegal. Shut it down. No judge, no actual investigation, no due process, no warrants. Just, we're going to suspend your bank account. This is basically equivalent to a third world tin pot dictator in the run-up to an election throwing all of his electoral competitors in jail so that he gets to be dictator for life, and every time there's a new election. Yes, I had elections, and I won again. Everybody loves me. All my competitors are dead or in jail. That seems to be what's happening here. But worse than that, this country can't operate if the banking system is subject to the fiat seizure of anybody's income based on the whim of a corrupt jackass presently sitting in the Prime Minister's office or any of his cronies. And again, if we depend on the reasonableness rather than the rule of law and the procedures therein, we have actually overturned not just democracy, not just civil rights, we've overturned fundamentally the rule of law in its concept. And what we have now is the rule of the whim of a small handful of people. It is their whim whether you get to keep your money. If you don't say the wrong thing, you get to keep your money. If you have a political opinion that doesn't coincide with theirs, or if you believe something unacceptable like a fringe minority, such as the view that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is the law, that's now a fringe minority viewpoint. If you protest, if you peacefully gather, if you voice your dissent, you can have your bank account shut down. This country is going to collapse. That is not just crushing of the rights of the individual. There will be no business done in this country except done by the crony capitalism, buddy bosom of the friends of Justin Trudeau. Everybody else, your money's up for grabs. They can grab it, no warrant, no recourse, no procedure. Just the reasonableness of the investigators, the RCMP, and the cronies of Justin Trudeau. This is a very, very bad day, and Mr. Trudeau and all his senior cabinet should all be in jail. This has, of course, been a rather stressful video to do because, of course, we're governed by a bandit now. We're governed by an open criminal who has abandoned, in my view, the pretense of being a prime minister and is now fully embracing his role as a mafia don, with all of us, his unwilling. And if any of you think this is still about preventing the transmission of COVID, well, you might just... Thanks a lot. As always, have a lovely, lovely day.